If you're tired of corporate media bowing to fascists and fundamentalists, check out The Collective. It's a grassroots, creator-owned platform for people who believe in liberation, not empire. At The Collective, you'll find fiery essays, sharp satire, and thought-provoking articles from today's boldest, justice-minded writers. Plus, you'll get real tools to create change, like scripts to contact your congresspeople, guides to push back locally, and a nationwide directory of Black and queer-owned businesses. Use promo code RADICALLOVE for 10% off a yearly subscription. That's a savings of 20% off the monthly price. Visit thecollective.com. That's TheQuollective and become part of something that resists, reimagines, and rebuilds.
This is Radical Love Live, an ongoing series of conversations with thought leaders exploring faith outside the boxes, hosted by Mark Dilcomb and Kelly Wilson.
Hey, Mark.
Hello, Kelly.
How are you?
I am great. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. For those who celebrate, we're now on the second day of Christmas of the 12. I got
A bit.
more bird.
Are there 12 days of Christmas? Where did you get that? There's a song about that, right?
There is a song we had right up until Epiphany.
Let's see. So, first day of Christmas, we get what? A partridge in a pear tree.
Yes.
So today is 2 turtle doves. I don't have my. Did you get your turtle doves?
Mm-mm. No, they're on layaway.
Yeah.
It's been a tough season.
I'm waiting for the 5th day so I can get 4 more golden rings. I have one for my marriage, but maybe 4 more. So, anyway,
So how was your Christmas?
it was great actually. This was a very meaningful Christmas, and I was really leaning into it. And you're right, it is the 12 days where we celebrate. So this is the first year that we have my mom here close to us, which is really
That's
great.
right. That's right. You moved.
And just spending Christmas Day with family that we love so much yesterday, really just, it was a range of emotions,
Mhm.
so there's a little bit of melancholy in there, but not in a sad way, just in that, just that range, because it was primarily adults, so there's not kids involved. So there's that, but there's so much to be grateful for.
Mhm.
And even in this time of chaos and uncertainty, and I could still find the gratitude and the joy and the celebration. And it was also inspired a little bit from the Christmas Eve service that we went. Go off a little bit of tangent, but I think it's important to share. At least this part where Bishop Matt Hyde delivered the sermon. This is a
Looked good at
cathedral of
Take
the Divine.
Yeah.
So he just nailed it from the get-go. He talked about Ali, who is in the Delany Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey. And now he is slowly starving to death because he's Muslim, he's halal, he's not fed that. And he laced that all into his sermon about, of course, why we're there celebrating the birth of this little baby Jesus, right? And connecting the two about present day and the power of love and how God shows up in these very wild ways. And he connected it through what is the Christmas pageant versus the pageant of Caesar. So, and he was using today's, he didn't use any particular names of any administration or anything else like that, but you knew where he was going with this, right?
Mhm.
So without using names, how we see the empire's pageant and how that plays out versus the pageant of Christmas and the love. And it's extraordinary. It kind of set the mood for me yesterday as well. So I was like, oh yeah, there is a reason for this season, as an right? It was really just a strong reminder of that God shows up in love, even in these what are very dark times.
Yeah, and it's I'm very familiar with the detention center in Newark, the Episcopal Diocese of Newark has continual prayer presence there, like priests and people outside praying and kind of helping guide people, because there's no place to sit out there. So like guiding people through the parking lot, how they go visit their loved ones. And, it's so wild that we can, that's happening, and you've got all these guys cosplaying in their camouflage and their ugly sunglasses standing outside, while other people are inside in their warm homes celebrating Christmas and being like, oh yeah, our little refugee baby came and saved everybody. And
yeah.
I spend way too much time online. I wandered into the online discussion the other day on, it wasn't really a discussion. I was just editorializing. Somebody I think it was on Bart Ehrman's page, like his, he posts some of his scholarship, and somebody was talking about Christmas. And I was like, the part that I'm curious about is peace on earth. Because, in Luke particularly, right at the beginning, there's a promise of peace on earth. And we've seen anything but that in the last 2,000 years. And often at the hands of Christian people, there isn't peace. And somebody swooped in, because you can't say something like that without somebody coming in and commenting. Somebody swooped in and said, you do have peace. You are sitting in your home. You're comfortable. You've had a good meal, and there aren't invaders. You don't have to be afraid of invaders coming and, marauding your town. You have peace. I was just mind blown, because I was like, do I take this seriously? Like, is this guy screwing with me? Or does he really think that physical comfort and national security, whatever that means, were the message of Christ? Like, that's what peace on earth was? And I was like, this is so incongruous. I just can't put all that together.
Okay.
I was like, and I really wanted to explore it. I wanted to be like, wow, how did you get to this point? But I did not think that a reasonable discussion was going to ensue. So I with much discipline, I let it go.
So this would be a great first question to ask our guest who's with us on this episode, don't you think?
Yes. Sorry, we're chewing up all the time. But
No, there's no apologies. I just figured, why not start off our awesome guest with the most profound question that could be put out there? What is peace on earth, Stuart? What does that mean to you?
Well, first, let's introduce Stuart.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his website right now, which is snarkifaith.com. And he introduces himself. I'm Stuart Delony, former pastor, current troublemaker, and the voice behind Snarky Faith. He's also the author of the Tribulation Survival Guide, which is a deadpan apocalyptic satire. And he writes weekly articles on faith, politics, and culture, and gives I think snarky is probably the right word, a snarky take on the absurdities of modern Christianity. So, Stuart, welcome. It's great to have you on Radical Love Live.
Well, hi, guys. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.
So, Mark, you were asking me, like, that's my opening question, to find peace on earth?
I know, right? Here, let's say, Stuart, welcome to the show.
So if I get it wrong, do I get kicked off? Is this like, how to...
That mean where we just press the exit button?
Do I get a phone a friend or anything else like that?
Well, you know what? We could put you in a bonus round. Absolutely.
Yeah. After this, we're going to go to the mysteries of the atonement.
Oh, okay. This is... Oh my gosh! Yes.
My
what is peace on earth?
Yeah. What is?
I have no clue. I mean, for this, I think peace on earth, if we're talking about it from like the Gospels, I think it's people walking out the ways of Christ, in their communities, creating peace in their small pockets, in the spheres they occupy, creating peace in that way. And I think it's just us being little Christ, trying to bring some sort of peace amongst the hellscape that we live in right now. And so I don't know if it's going to be all over Earth, but it's all I can do is do my own little piece to bring to my spot on Earth. Yeah.
That sounds like a much more gospel-oriented answer than peace on earth means I have the personal peace knowing that Jesus
Yeah.
is my heart, my sins are forgiven, and if I hunker down long enough, I'll be raptured away before this hellhole burns.
Yes, and means I don't have to care for my neighbor. I don't have to love anybody else. I don't have to do any of the words of Jesus. I just hunker down and wait for the rapture and peace out, baby.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Which is not biblical, but that's a different story.
That's a different story. So, Stuart, you're
Yes.
a former pastor. Where?
Yes.
What kind of denomination were you a part of?
I have run the smattering gambit, my friend.
Okay.
Originally, I was born and raised Southern Baptist. I got a little bit of tastes of Pentecostalism and charismatic fun when I was a child as well too. My mom would drag me around to tent revivals. My dad was the conservative guy, so I got a taste of both of that. Hopped into ministry. I've been a pastor, a church planter, a missionary, a youth pastor, in some sort of mix of all of those over 20 years for different denominations. And so I kind of was always looking for my right tribe. And I think eventually my right tribe was getting defrocked because of supporting LGBTQ folks. And also on
How
my
dare
podcast.
you do that?
I know, it's even worse. On my podcast, I swear. I know.
You know that's going to get you to hell, right?
It is. That's what unfrocked me.
Okay. So are you cool about that? You're down with that?
Being defrocked.
No, going to hell.
Oh, I'm fine going to hell as well too. Yes, yeah. I'll ride my defrocking all the way to hell because it doesn't exist. But
No,
yay!
being very snarky for obvious reasons. So truly, so that's your story. You got defrocked over being supportive to the queer community,
And for swearing, but yeah.
It really was.
Well, it was a weird situation. I hadn't even been a pastor for a few years, but I was still doing my podcast and writing, and it was something where they're like, "We need to have a meeting with you about things," and I'm like, "Okay, what's it about?" We'll talk about that in the meeting. And I've been around ministry long enough to be like, no, that's
can't
not
be good.
happening. Tell me what tell me what you want to talk about. Well, it was several circles of that. And they're like, well, if you don't come to this meeting, we're going to defrock you. And I was like, okay. And I don't think they expected that for me because at the point I was like, I don't care. And so, yeah.
You can't fire.
So
Wait.
Mark's brain
Your
is
story
broken
is so
right now.
similar to like Zach Lambert, Colby Martin. And I'm sure there are more out there that, because they happen to be. Yeah, Tom Ord, right? Exactly like what he dared do. He thrown out of his denomination, right? He went in front of a hearing.
Go to
the whole
like a
works.
tribunal. Yeah.
Yeah, tribunal.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think they wanted a tribunal, but I wouldn't give them the glory of it because I don't know. If you've been around ministry long enough, you kind of know what a firing squad is when they're asking you like to do it. And I'm like, I know what this is. I can smell gunpowder. Unless you tell me what this is about. No. And that's another thing with denominations. They don't also like hearing that word.
All right.
From those sides too. So I was like, yeah.
But it's amazing that it's a job where they can police your thoughts and beliefs. I mean, clearly,
Yes.
belief is the currency of ministry. I mean, that's no secret. But just the fact that, I mean, there's a lot of jobs now. Like if you post something really offensive on Instagram or something, that you could get fired. But just the fact that like we sense that you have a belief that is contrary to our list of commandments, that alone is enough to get.
Yeah, that's a lot of churches, and that's a lot of church ministry, and that's a lot of people that have been chewed up and spit out by the institutional machine that many churches have become.
Wow. Do you feel like that? Like at some point there was something that it sounds like your beliefs either shifted along the way or your awareness of your beliefs. Was there a break at some point where you were like, I don't know if I'm aligned with these folks?
I think, and since I've been involved with, like you mentioned it, I've had points where I was like, Southern Baptist folks, no more. Goodbye. I don't need this. This is like earlier in ministry. I think some of it was I'm a natural question asker, just because I'm curious. And I've always even as a kid, I took my faith seriously, and I was just really curious about the ways of Jesus. And even from a young age, I would realize if you ask too many questions, they don't like it. And it's not even asking questions out of like, I'm trying to like pick apart your arguments or your theology. I was generally curious. And I feel like that curiosity just kept going within different ministries and denominations, and you're around something enough. And yeah, I'm a person that tends to push back if I see stuff that I don't agree with, and I feel like is non-gospel centric, and that also can tend to get me into trouble, because I think for being in ministry long-term and being healthy, I think you have to have a huge ability to be able to swallow down your beliefs to keep the institution happy, and I've never been one that does that, and so. Yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of folks over the last few years, both with Radical Love Live and the other things that I do. And you're the first to be so on the nose about what you said from a ministerial point of view, like as somebody that's conscribed and you have to toe the company line to say it quite that way, that you have to swallow down your own beliefs in order to stay within that. And that feels very icky and depressing. Like there's just kind of this wave that came over me of like, oh my God, how many people who feel the call into ministry like that, and then come to the realization that, I can't share my own actual beliefs. I can just, again, toe the company line.
There's a lot more than you think. I have a group I started, and it's for people that were pastors that were questioning and wanted space to be able just to ask questions and talk. And some of them are ex-pastors as well, too, that joined this group. And I just toss it out, and as a bunch of guys from across the country just join this, and we're friends, and we meet regularly and just talk. Over the course of probably meeting with these guys over the past 4 years, when it all started, a lot of them were still in ministry, and now none of them are. And that wasn't my goal. It wasn't trying to run them out of ministry. It was just giving them space to be able to wrestle and talk and be honest, where it's private and it's not going to get back to their churches, their denominations, where they can just process. And yep, I'm batting 1,000 right now.
Is you talk about them not being in ministry anymore. Does that mean that they walked away from their faith, or is their faith still thriving beyond?
Some of it, I think some of it is it's walking with folks in deconstruction circles. I think it's being able to let your faith continue, where the church would tell you, no, you've gone too far. You've gone too far, and you're about to walk outside the walls of this, and we're not comfortable with you. I think that for me, it was my faith and walking it out simply just led me away from institutional church. And it wasn't a thing where I was like giving it the middle finger or anything, even though in my writing I do now, because it can be abusive. The church can be abusive, and it does piss me off. But it was a lot of it is just people walking out their faith and letting them continue to walk out and process this and see where the Lord's leading them in this. And it doesn't have to be part of this institution. Now, many institutions can feed people, and a lot of it are good for folks. But there's a lot of them out there that are not healthy, that are very toxic, and that are really hard on people, like not even spiritually, it's even just mental health wise and otherwise, like having really toxic theology that just pushes people down.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
I am all about that. I just finished writing what I call a manifesto. It's called Unrepentant, our manifesto for queer divinity and sacred justice, right? And so it's written in movements and witnesses. And I write a lot about that, the flawed theology that's really driven my own work that I'm called to do. And it's not for burning down my faith. If anything else, I love my faith, and I love our God even more so going through this journey. But boy, oh boy, it's the institutions that I look at. You're not serving the majority of people so well. And of course, I'm thinking for the person that's sitting in the pew, you are talking from a point of view of those people looking out into the congregation. And it's so easy to forget about them. I mean, even Kelly and I, over the years of conversations with people like we just mentioned, Tom or others, we see a blip of what happens to them from there, because they too are human. They too are people of faith. And they, as you said a few minutes ago, they get chewed up and spit out by that institution. So where do you, are you hopeful? Where do you see this
In what
going?
regard? Am I hopeful in the institution? No, never,
Yeah.
ever, 0%. This is from a guy that bats 1,000. Remember?
That's true. You just said that. Yeah.
My point is the biggest problem with the way we look at institutional church is, at least in America. I'm not saying this is worldwide. I'm just kind of from a very American perspective. The moment, and this comes from a church planter, the moment you establish a church, that church is all about keeping that church alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the gospel, like following out the ways of Jesus, are about everyone else. Like I'm called to go, to serve, to be there, to empty myself, to do all of this. And so
don't go too far there, because that's a kind of a profound thought you just laid down.
The instant you start it, it's a selfish institution.
It is built around its own survival.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This reminds me of something I heard not long ago, which is, or it's probably another one of those things I saw online. I spent way too much time, but it's about our brains, that our brain is programmed to keep us alive, not to make us happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before, Kelly.
Yeah. And in fact, it resists too much joy because it thinks like, oh, this isn't sustainable. Like,
true.
But it's like,
so you have to wallow in a bit of misery.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But church becomes an organism in and of itself,
mm-hmm.
in the way that like corporations become a thing among themselves, or in and of themselves. So
that's true. They must keep themselves
growth.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So tangentially, if we connect, I'm going to try to do a mashup here, and this may work well, and it may totally flop. But you're right. I agree with you, by the way. Where are you going, Stuart? I write about that extensively, about I see the institutions dying, and I can't wait for them to die as we know them. But I've never put it in the words quite like that. And I don't say that from hate. I do it from love, because our faith is constrained and trapped into this survival thing. And to your point, that's not what it's all about. But if you think about a church, and whether it's singular or it's non-denominational or it's a part of a denomination, they are all wired to survive, just like a for-profit corporation in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do things that feel very icky, that would actually be conflicting to one's own ethos to run a for-profit corporation. But what is it always about? It's always about shareholder value.
Yep.
And we've seen that in for-profit corporations, the ones that rose post-World War II into the 50s and the 60s. When we talk about those, the heyday of the middle class, it was like, well, yeah, you could raise your family, and you got all these, you had health insurance, you had all those things, right? You had like a sense of comfort that was created as a result of all that. But you look at corporations, once they realize, no, but we really have to work on our share prices. That becomes the priority. Then all the other stuff, starts to fade away. So I don't know if my connection or if my mashup
I remember when I was going through like training for church planting, they had sent us to and this wasn't the denomination that was church planting me, but it was a guy that was a major trainer for like the United Methodist Church. And I remember as he's talking to church planters, he was like, well, you're going to have a team around you as you're beginning to build this church. And most of these people will not be there long term. They're merely the scaffolding for helping build this church. And once I heard that, I almost just walked out, like in my brain. Like my brain checked out. Yes. Referring to humans as scaffolding. Yeah.
All right.
She didn't like it either.
No, I agree. But yeah, that was one of those things where I was just like, did you just wait? I remember this in the Gospels where Jesus referred to people as scaffolding, right?
That's right.
No, not at all. No, what is this? This is insanity.
Thou shalt walk upon their heads as they climb to the echelons of success.
Yeah, and so oftentimes it's super Machiavellian, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of gross. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember if anybody listening is like, oh, church isn't that bad, like go join a church board sometime.
Oh my God.
The first time that I ever learned, the first time I ever learned the word pledging units, I almost vomited. I was like, are you kidding me? Like we're referring to people. Like I was already offended by just referring to people as seats and pews. But then going forward to be like, are they pledging units? Like they're now just so dehumanized. They're just like ATMs that are sitting in the seats.
Yeah.
It's a weird.
We're not saving souls. We just need to get their credit card numbers first.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and so they get caught up into that, just to that point. And Kelly, thank you for saying that, because I'm the proud quitter of 2 vestries, where I was just like, I have no business being a part of this sausage making. I'm not belittling the necessity of a vestry. That's a very Episcopalian kind of reference, but the board. But I was like, this is killing my faith, man. I can't be a part of this.
Yeah. Anyone in a church board meeting has had their soul killed by just the minutia of those damn meetings. They just never end.
Right. And so I say with love to anybody that's listening to this conversation, I understand where you are in that moment of like, oh my God, why am I doing this? But it is a necessary component, because these boards they must happen, right? The ordained folk can't just do this by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the ordained folk, oftentimes, what I've noticed working around other pastors, they love wielding power over meetings and making them as long as possible. It ends up being an ego thing. Yes. I've talked to senior pastors I've worked for him. I was like, this whole thing could be done through email, right? Like, this is just you talking for an hour. Like, simply, why are we even here? Yeah. And it's your ego. That makes sense.
Yeah. All we really needed to do was approve the budget.
Yeah.
Send me the Excel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm thinking about the end of the world. Could be that it's, we have an impending snowstorm here in northern New Jersey.
That's what we do. I'm down on the Jersey Shore at Mom's house today as well. So it's no apocalypse. I just came from Lowe's, where the number one seller was, no surprise, salt. They had pallets of salt. You would think, my God, the world is coming to an end.
Yeah,
right.
It is. It's happening. And especially the world's coming to an end. The date now has been pushed to January the 13th of 2026 is when the world is ending. And what you need to do is be able to pick up the book, The Tribulation Survival Guide, because that is the date when it arrives. This is the book.
I love that. Just in time.
Just in time for it, yeah. It's been fun marketing a book with end times themes to people, because pushing out videos and stuff, my whole first phase of this had been, I'm pushing the fact that it's satire, and I want some people to think this is real. So it's been fun pushing out different crazy AI videos and stuff that's declaring the end of the world, and people to get super into this. And I'm like, okay, it's a book on satire.
Yeah, wasn't it endorsed by Benny Hinn and?
I have many different endorsements.
Yeah.
Whoa, stop the bars. I missed that. Are you serious? Benny Hinn endorsed yours? Oh,
no. I think
for now, but I'm like, what?
No. I think Kelly is referring to my fake endorsements that I'm putting out for the book. Okay.
Yeah, these Facebook ads where it's just, wow, I've never.
That's fabulous.
Yes, I think it was Benny Hinn. Something this has been a little while, but yes, I think he was just talking about how I think the book has saved more people than his jacket, and so his jacket's a little jealous.
Yeah, when he does the John Travolta thing.
Yeah.
Sit around his head.
Oh my God, I love you. That's
awesome.
But it is fun explaining to people. At the beginning, people are like, wait, did Rick Warren really tell you this? And I'm like, did you read? Does this even seem like something Rick Warren being like, something about the end times? He's like, that's my bag, baby, kind of a thing. And people are like, did he really say that? And do you want to believe he said that? Then yes.
Do you want him to believe?
No, none of this makes sense. It's satire, jeez. But yeah.
Well, so what prompted you to do this?
If I'm being really honest, it was the fact that
I
was avoiding editing another book I have done. It was one of those processes where I was like, this is a good book. I haven't grown into the person I need to be to make this book better that I was working on. So I was like, intellectually, it is there. Heart-wise, it's not there. And so I guess I was trying to give the publisher something else, and this started just as a stupid idea at first, and then it kind of spiraled, and then it just kept going. And it is, so what this is, it kind of reads as like a 1950s field manual that you'd get from the government on how to survive something of this. And so the whole premise behind this is that the rapture's happened, and this is the book that you need to survive now that you have not been taken into heaven. And so it's kind of pushing the logical conclusions of rapture culture and end times nonsense and everything. In the book, it talks about like how to find the Antichrist, how to survive the plagues and pestilence.
No, looking on the table of contents is
somebody tries to
a
put
treat
a
in of
chip
itself.
in your head or your hand. Avoid the mark.
So this is so it's very, very, very. It's my brand is snarky faith. So this is very dry, very snark. This is very going through it, but it came from the idea of speaking back to when I was pre-frocked, or when I was getting frocked before I was defrocked. I was sitting. I was
frocking around.
It is frocking around the Christmas tree. But I remember sitting before a board of people that were asking me questions, and they had asked me this one question, which probably should have told them not to ordain me. They had said, like, is there any like scripture or anything you disagree with in the Bible? And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you guys something. Well, I'll just say this. I pretty much think the entire book of Revelation has really had not a huge ton of value to the Christian faith in America. Just America speaking. And I was like, I don't really think it has done anything to forward the gospel, any iota. I think it has led people to like navel gaze and look away from reality and get obsessed with the X-Files and sci-fi and all this other stuff because people don't know how to read Revelation correctly. And I was like, yes, I do think this has been a huge detriment to the gospel, because I think most Christians, they look for heaven and they don't pay attention to what's happening right now on earth. And they got mad, but they couldn't argue with what I was so they eventually gave up.
Okay, fine, we'll let them in.
Well, it was that kind of thing, because I was like, I'm saying culturally, not, theologically, culturally. And so they were mad, but yeah, they still let me in for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Had you had experience with end time theologies, like when you were growing up? Was it a real thing?
I think when I was really trying to think about like what was my heart like as a kid, like how like which part of me like is in this book. It was a 7-year-old me, and I remember I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I remember being in the Southern Baptist Church. We were good churchgoers. My dad had us there. It was like Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. It's in the middle of the summer. AC doesn't work well, and we have to sit through these long, awful, boring Sunday night sermons. These are the ones where the pastor's like, "Oh, I don't care about keeping everybody else happy. Everyone's going to listen to me forever." And we had and it was kind of like the B team choir, which our A team choir wasn't that great to begin with, but it was lots of bad music, hymn music that we're singing. And the pastor gets up and he goes, Isn't this wonderful? Can you imagine this? We get to do this in heaven every day for eternity. And I remember as a kid, I was going like, oh no, this is hell. Like that somehow they transferred in my head, this is hell. That was my first wonder about this. And as I had mentioned earlier about some of my end time stuff was that when, part of my formative years, when I was 3, my sister was born and she had like severe mental and developmental disabilities.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what led my mom to go, hey, let's go look to charismatic folks and televangelists because they can heal her. And whereas my dad's like, conservatism is the way to go. And so it would be like I would be church here, but also being drugged to tent meetings and other places. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
And even even to the effect, and that was one thing too. My parents never explained things to me, so I was just always observing what's going on. I remember being in a meeting. It was Oral Roberts, for those of you that know this, and that is not a sexual euphemism. That was an actual human. So Oral Roberts,
Yeah,
I've never.
when I was
You're the first to use his name in that kind of context,
Yeah.
and I love you for that.
yeah,
Keep going.
when I was a kid, I remember a joke going around like, "What do you call two gay Bobs?" Or Roberts.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I think like junior high school.
That is really a great joke. Well done.
So speaking about, so yes, this is one of these things. This is like faith healing and other stuff. I remember I'm at some rally. I'm young. My mom just puts me in a line of people that are supposedly going to the front of the stage. I don't know what's happening. I'm again like 6, 7, 8, and I grew up with asthma, and I get to the stage and I'm going like, what is this guy doing? This is weird. And then so he puts me forward and you're healed, and does the forehead, and then I just step back. And then you're healed, because really they want you to fall back to do that, and he just kept doing this, and I didn't know what was happening. And then eventually, like the guy, like kind of like there's catchers in these, and so the catcher eventually kind of eases me back to myself, and then you go back to your seat, and I was going like, I still have asthma, and what the hell just happened? And so these kind of things, and my mom dragging me around these places, you start to get a good sniffer for BS.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you are the first person I think I've encountered in conversation that actually can speak that this happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't even know what was happening as a kid. So just to clarify, your mom knew what she was doing, but she didn't tell you what was going to happen.
Not a great communicator, but it would be the kind of thing, we have to go and do this, and I just drag along with me and my sister to all these different like tent
She
revivals.
just shoved you in
and
this
stuff.
line. Next thing you know,
Yeah. It was fun. Not traumatic at all, but
no, not at all.
no, like even a kid, like even thinking like the weird world of like speaking in tongues and stuff, if it's not explained to you, but then, and you don't understand it. So you start observing it, and then you start going, oh, all these people are full of bullshit, and they're just copying each other because this is just groupthink. And then you eventually start realizing that that's what's happening there. That this is like, oh, okay, yeah.
So as a 7, 8-year-old, you're already picking up your bullshit meter. Is like,
well, when someone pulls you aside and they're like, here's what you need to do. You have to start saying it like this. And then you just kind of go with it. And I'm like, what? Like, huh? Like, what? This, I don't what? No, this, you're talking about this like it's a dance that you're teaching me. Not like somehow like what they were saying would be like, it's the spirit speaking, in unutterable words. Oh yes, it's this. No, it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
When it can be
Biblically, because in the Bible, and I'm not trying to roast charismatics, and none of this has to do with the end times really, but even in the Bible, if you talk about it, they spoke in other discernible languages, if we even want to take that literal. So that had a purpose, if that was even real. But it still had a purpose. What they do in these other circles, it's nonsense. It makes you look away from reality. And the more we keep people looking away from reality, the easier it is for us to manipulate you.
Wow. And it can be kind of spooky to be in one of those meetings. Like I've been to tent revivals and charismatic churches when you're in a crowd of like 1,000 people that are all talking in this kind of spiritual gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
It feels culty.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
because it is
very haunting. Yeah.
It's not just a feeling,
but it can be moving too. I mean, you can be part of it. And,
absolutely.
Like creating a seamless spiritual feeling is a good way to get people to keep coming back.
Sure. There's the dopamine hits that come from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Yeah. Right. And I'm not sure I have a point other than I've not been a part of that. So just in this conversation now, I was like, oh, wow, that must be an interesting experience for somebody. But you people who connect, it's like when you're have the altar calls and there's you feel, the power of Christ, all over it. Like, okay, but is that really Christ? Is that what Christ feels like? Because I personally have not had that. I mean, I definitely touch the divine. It has happened to me, but it's not in that. And it's my own personal experience. I don't think there's a particular prescribed way, but for me, it actually happens in silence or just in that moment when I realized that, there's something so amazing about why we are here. And, I can't put words. I can't,
But it's expansive. What you felt was expansive. It wasn't narrowing.
Yeah.
And I feel like altar calls are necessarily narrowing. And I think I did read in this. I'm allowed to swear on this podcast because I mean, I think the premise for most of this is the idea that the way a lot of these folks will do this is Scripture tells you you're a piece of shit, and you'll always be a piece of shit unless you have Jesus.
Amen, brother.
But that's trauma fuel for anybody. That's trauma fuel for anybody. But also, it gets people to go down to the aisle feeling like a piece of shit and calling out to God.
Amen. You are speaking the truth there. So a beloved friend of mine who is a part of the work I do, Justin, that's exactly it. For the first time I met him, he just talked about, we live in a world where our faith teaches us to be pieces of shit, and the only salvation comes from what happens inside that church.
Mm-hmm. And just to add to that, one of the problems, I grew up in a holiness church where you were expected to achieve total sanctification and not sin anymore, is when you feel like you're just, you're terrible and broken and fallen, and then you try to become better, and then afterwards you still feel fallen and broken, and then it's like, oh, is there something wrong with me? And it's kind of like, people, we were talking about the charismatic church where you go in and somebody lays hands on you, and then afterwards you're not healed. Some people go, oh yeah, I guess this is Butch Holcomb. But some people go, is it me? Did I not have enough faith?
Yes.
Did I not pray hard enough?
But that's the way that a lot of these faith healers get away with it, because they put it back on you. Oh, well, I've got the healing hands here, baby. And if these healing hands didn't work, that's your problem. It must be sin. That works. That makes sense. Yeah, sure, we'll push that. Yeah, that's kind of how they do it.
Yeah.
Holy shit. So have you seen that firsthand, Stuart?
And what regard?
Like where you put the blame back onto the individual. Like
healing? Not necessarily. Well, I mean, I had asthma growing up, and that was like a thing that I would worry about. Well, is this because, do I have like unconfessed sin somehow in me? And then you get in this kind of stuff to where it's like, and in a lot of these circles, whether we're talking about end times or just even like satanic panic versions of Jesus stuff, it turns people into looking like, oh, there's a devil around every corner, and you're about to be tempted. There's sin going to happen. Oh no! And you're never thinking about yourself as a human. You're just always like terrified of everything. It's trauma fuel.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, that's part of my personal experience as well as a kid, because my parents didn't have me baptized as a child, and then so it was that, and everybody else in the churches I was going to, well, they were baptized. I'm like, well, okay, how come my parents didn't baptize me? And then I'm figuring out, I'm queer myself as a young kid and stuff like that, and then I'm finding out all that. I got to the point where I was so scared at night that if I died, I was going to go to hell. Like, and that, it's very sobering when you're a kid. I was preteen, already coping with that shit. And I'm like, I look back on it now on how much I had to process to get there. But yeah, the phrase you use, trauma fuel, that's exactly what that stuff is.
It is. And it's sad, because I think what ends up happening, there's just systems, and people believe in what they're doing because they're taught to do what they've seen, and they don't ever question it. And so you just keep modeling it. And so you just assume this is the right way to do it. And in many denominations, especially in like once you get outside of like larger cities and stuff, there's tons of pastors that have even never been to seminary. I'm not even saying seminary is great. I've been there. It's okay. You can get what you need to out of seminary, but some are really terrible. But a lot of folks aren't even educated when they're doing this, and they're preaching all of this with absolute certainty, and it's bullshit.
Yeah, that was enlightening. We know someone to comment, Keith Childs, right? Of course. And Keith, in a conversation with Kelly and me some time ago, talked about how he got called into church and as Southern Baptist. And he was the first to point that out, that seminary was not a requirement. And I'm like, it isn't?
No. I just... No, I'd been in ministry. I did seminary. I mean, I had a bachelor's degree in communications, which had nothing to do with ministry. And then I eventually went through. I eventually just went through seminary because I wanted it. I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to understand and how to read deeper. In seminary, and that, as I've told people, I even told people the seminary, is like, you guys totally ruined me for ministry, and I love you for it. Because you taught me how to read the Bible, and I also realized a lot of other people don't read it correctly, and that's problematic.
You know, one thing that I've noticed is with some of these theologies is that even for people who aren't Christian or aren't even religious, it still kind of leaks out into the broader culture.
Yeah.
And not only in shaping how people think of Christians and what they expect from them, but also this end of the world is impending. I mean, I saw a clip, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but it was a clip from not this most recent one, but a couple years back, the CPAC, the conservative political thing. And it was Sean Hannity on stage going, well, the environmentalists say we've only got about 10 more years on this planet. Well, so let's party on. Let's just live it up for this next 10 years.
Yeah. If you said that before on the show, I probably had the same response. He said that?
Yeah. He was on stage and he's like, so what? Then let's drill all the oil. Let's
get everything.
So, Mark, are you offended? Because you're just like, not my Sean Hannity.
Yeah,
my Sean wouldn't say that.
Yeah,
I'm here to defend Sean Hannity. I love the guy.
No, you're right about it. I mean, I feel like having this kind of end times narrative has fueled a lot of conservatives to not give a crap about the earth, and so it's the idea of like, which is crazy because this feels insane because they'll talk about creation is the beauty of all that God has done. Look at creation. God's thumbprint is everywhere. But at the same time, they're like, let's get the hell out of here and let this stuff burn because Jesus needs to rapture us because I heard there is like pearly gates, there's mansions, and I want in on that. I don't want to do the hard work right now of trying to be a Christian on earth. That sounds more fun.
Did you ever believe that yourself individually?
Mansions and all that stuff. It always made me gross as a kid. I would hear people talking about it, and I was like, because it somehow I don't know. I can be very like logical. I very just black and white in certain ways when I will read scripture with things. And Jesus always just seems self-sacrificial. Like the whole story of Christ does not lead you to being like mansions and jewels and all of these other things. Like what part of that story informs this story?
Right.
None.
No,
it's like that's
does not work for the narrative.
Heaven seems like the empire that Jesus was talking against in the way that they talk about it.
Of course. I read a lot about the empire, and we don't talk enough about that in our culture. What is empire? And how, because when we hear that, we think of the Roman Empire and Caesar. I'm like, no, it's alive and well right here, right now. Everything we see is based around empire, and empire is, it's not a conflation. It's when you look at, really dive deep into what does empire represent and how you have the intersection of all of that makes that happen. And then, of course, you can look back onto Roman times and see it, but it's like, well, but we have that going on right here, right now. And only it's magnified because of the power of media and everything else. And actually, what we live today, this empire, is worse than probably what was then. I mean, sure, they were throwing people in the in the Colosseum and
we're just more efficient now.
People. Exactly right. We don't have humans ripped apart by lions, at least. Literally in that sense, not that we're aware of. We just do it in different ways, right?
Yeah, so, we just round up people and put them on a plane and send them to another country. That's
exactly
how is that any different? Yeah. How is that any different?
Well, at least we gave them an airfare and we served them a meal. So
yes, that's true. Yeah. We were so compassionate.
And we'll give you a $3,000 credit.
And did they at least get a little baggie of peanuts on the plane? Is that what we're doing? Oh, look at us! They were so compassionate. Now,
are you allergic to peanuts? Here, I have two.
When it's funny that so there are so many people who can defend their position on this by saying, well, if they'd only followed the law, if they don't come here legally, and like what part of the gospel made them think that Jesus's big thing was following the law?
Absolutely. I mean, even like if we're talking about end time stuff, Revelation is a big middle finger to the empire. Like this is coded language that they're writing. Like it's an apocryphal writing that was used. It was a way people could write that wasn't explicitly saying, Rome, you suck. And so it's doing it through different ways of being able to say, Rome, you suck, and there is something greater than you, empire. There's something greater that is hopefully happening here. But people don't miss that. They get caught up in dragons and lakes of fire and anything that sounds like X-Files, because that's way more fun than
That's very true.
than feeding your neighbor or helping out in a food kitchen or doing something that costs something of yourself.
And this is what you learned in seminary? I'm joking, of course, because people would think, wow, that's why you don't go to seminary.
I did learn. I will tell you, I did learn in seminary, and it was fun. It was fun also like even the things like when we're like doing like the Pentateuch, so going through like what is the first 5 books of the Bible, watching other pastors from other denominations lose their minds when they're trying to process, was the earth created in 7 days? And trying to see people's mental gymnastics try to explain this versus mine. I went to Fuller Seminary, so they're a lot more liberal in this.
Okay, so we didn't have the context of that. Okay, so you were in a multi-denominational environment.
But it was people's minds will explode when you start doing things to them. Pastors that have been in the pulpit for years.
Yeah.
And it's funny to watch their minds explode and then kind of be like, wow, I'm going to go back to where I was. And so it's like, yeah, it's kind of the thing. But wait, how did this not like mess with your head? It's not. This is out of my comfort zone.
Wow.
Something as simple and dumb as that, like being able to explain how the earth came about, that they somehow need it to be this many actual days. This is actual days, and this is how all this is. And I'm like, what a small view of the universe. What a small view of a God that you have to cling to this so hard that you're willing to go to wars over this. You're willing to excommunicate family members over this. Over something that we can't prove, we don't know, and yeah, who the hell knows? But we are certain about something that we don't know. That's a lot of religion.
Right. And there's so many people that I've spoken with that are, conservative religious folks who, if I challenge them on something and it's a really good point, it's like, this could not have happened at this, or this clearly is symbolic, whatever. They seem like kind of think about it and be like, you know what, at this point, I'm not going to change my mind. Like I found a thing that works and, I'm going to stick with what I know.
It's comfortable that way. It is very comfortable there. And that's a lot of American Christianity is all about comfort. We want our preference pushed, not ours, but they want their preference pushed into all these different spheres. It's not about live and let live, or live and just let people live and who they're supposed to be, or who they feel called to be. No, we have to push our ways onto everybody else, because then it makes me feel comfortable.
Right.
Which again, it's so friggin' selfish, and it's like the opposite of Jesus. If we're talking about end times, it's very antichrist. If we're going to use their language. The church is very antichrist right now, if you take it for what it is.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Well,
That's
Stuart,
a cliffhanger.
you have taken us to the perfect point of where we're going to wrap up this episode, and we'll pick up on the other side as we like to do in our conversations. So you were actually suggesting we're going to leave this thought with our listeners that end times is actually antichrist. That's what I just heard.
Yes, the end times, and many churches today are acting as if they are the Antichrist.
All right.
Stay tuned for more.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Do.
All
right. Well, we'll catch you on part 2 of our conversation, Stuart. Thanks for an awesome conversation so far. Listeners, we'll see you later on the next episode. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Radical Love Live, hosted by Mark Dilcom and Kelly Wilson. Recorded at the Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. All rights reserved. Find our episodes on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And check us out at radicallovelive.com, along with our personal websites at markdilcom.com and kellywilson.com. This is Radical Love Live, where we explore faith outside the boxes.